Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
And I'm Clueless Mike.
And together we are Modelling for Advantage. Whoop, whoop. Warhammer.
Ah, my new Space Marine Codex. It feels good to have it with me.
Man's still in the plastic, Mike, like a pro.
Yeah, I've ripped mine open.
You've got notes and everything, right?
I have, look, bits of paper with handwritten stuff on. Amazing stuff.
So what we're going to do here is, we're not going to record a 2-hour video. Michael actually has to be home or his wife will tell him off.
Yeah, that's it. We've got to watch Bake Off, apparently, so...
Mate, I mean, do you know what I mean? For our American friends, that's rubbish TV about baking.
No, it's really popular in America, I'm told.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. BBC America is kind of... Hold on, well, it used to be BBC America. Maybe they can't get it anymore. It's on Channel 4.
Who knows? That's not what they're here for, though.
No, it's not, no.
So we'll
probably cut that.
We're not going to long this out. Now, both Michael and I are chatty.
Yeah,
we are
this
both
is an issue.
Chatty. What we're going to do is we're going to try and give you our responses to the Codex, what we think, and Michael's going to be pulling out some of the highlights. I'm a very casual player. Michael does go and hustle small tournaments from time to time.
I like small tournaments. I used to go to bigger tournaments, but finding the time for 2-day tournaments nowadays is... Well, finding a tournament nowadays is an issue, but
well,
in general...
Yeah. Right now, we are in this weird arrangement because we are still observing social distance. We both want to live and we want our families to continue. Yeah. So should we start in that unstructured way? Let's talk about the structure of the book.
Yes.
First up, then, the artwork. This is a bit of a movement away from the style of the previous Codex. I think this is a bit more of a painting.
I like that. My favourite artworks were the 6th and 7th editions, which were generally the single character on the front cover, and they're all drawn by the same artist, and they were my favourite covers. But I think this is a pretty serviceable cover. It's not all Primaris Marines, which is quite nice to know. The Terminator on the front cover.
Oh, there's a Terminator Chaplain there.
A Terminator Chaplain here, an original Space Marine there.
And he's got a proper sunken head, hasn't he?
He has,
in the Terminator style.
He actually looks like the model that they've announced for Warhammer Day this year is a special Terminator Chaplain, and he, looking at him, looks pretty similar to that. You can't see what his weapon in his other hand is, but it looks similar enough.
I'm seeing an ancient there with a power sword.
Yeah, good choice.
And I don't think they can take them.
I'm not sure they can, no.
We're going to have a look. Maybe there's a new model coming out in that respect.
Quite possibly.
Dude with a bolter and a load of confetti ribbons.
Yeah.
What's that about, Michael? I'm not up with the law. Why are these Ultramarines covered in ribbons?
So the bits down here on the bottom here look like the weird faux Roman dress. There's probably a proper name for those weird leather tassels they wear as groin pieces. But generally the little bits of ribbon are known as, they're bits of parchment known as Oaths of Moment. There, my memory kicked in.
Oaths of Moment.
So technically a Space Marine, before going into battle, he makes an oath about what he's going to achieve in that battle. I'm going to slay 1,000 Xenos, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he gets a wax steel and seal and tapes it onto his armour. And that's his oath of how he's going to perform in the battle. Or
wraps it around his bolter and stuff.
Yeah, and that's why they're all covered. And the more veteran you are, the more of these oaths you have plastered on your armour, because you've taken so many oaths in your time.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Is there anything revealing in this picture?
I don't think so.
I can see one of those drop pod bunkers falling from the sky.
That?
And here, that's what that looks like to me.
No, that's a land speeder with a heavy bolter on the top. You can tell by the weird little thing sticking out underneath it. I've used those pieces for
the
many
ventral
modelling
fin
projects.
or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's got Thunderhawks in the background. All of these are non-Primaris vehicles, which is interesting.
Non-Primaris vehicles.
Yeah.
And of course, so that's in terms of the front cover. The new logo, of course.
Yeah, the new logo.
I don't like it.
I prefer the old logo. It is slightly growing on me, but all these things, whenever they change a logo on anything, you don't like it until you've lived with it for a bit.
Yeah. Here's a picture we've seen often, but inside you will find a detailed account of the Space Marines, including their origins, organisation, and methods of waging war. Okay, a showcase of superbly painted Citadel miniatures that demonstrates the range of colour schemes and heraldry employed by the Adeptus Astartes.
Does a good job of that.
A vast range of data sheets, including tabletop routes for units in the Space Marine Army.
It certainly does have a vast range of data sheets, 104 or something like that.
army-wide rules content that allows you to take your collection of Space Marines Citadel miniatures and marshal them into a formidable strike force ready to lay low the Emperor's foes. The content includes relics, warlord traits, bespoke crusade rules, chapter-approved secondary objectives, and much more.
Yep, it is a thick tome containing many, many things.
But is it as big as the last Space Marine Codex, which was like the Argos catalogue?
Yeah, I seem to remember reading somewhere online, who knows where, that it's actually more or less the exact same size as the previous one.
Is it? It's just cheaper
It's got
paper.
far more rules in my mind though, so I think they've cut down on the fluff. It's still got all the usual stuff in it, like the big painting section, such like that. Loads of lovely artwork inside.
I just wanted to, on this last paragraph here though, it's a bit like one of them dodgy Indian restaurants you sometimes found, you know. It says, the mixed curry contains a pork, beef, lamb, chicken, and meat.
Yes.
So, and much more. So, no, we've covered all of the things. What is that last one?
Much more.
What is that much more?
Stratagems. Oh no, they're probably listed. Oh, it doesn't say stratagems. The much more is stratagems.
Okay. So something we're worried about. We've got nice end papers.
Yeah, really pretty.
It does appear to be a stitched book rather than perfect binding. I can see the leaves. So this should last quite well.
Hopefully so. I mean, it'll last a year maybe until we replace it with a new one.
Oh, mate, it'll be another one of these in 6 months. But structurally, the book. So a lot of times, though, when you buy War Games books, they're in hard covers, but they're still perfect bound.
Yeah,
that's when you open them, you hear that crack sound, and then all the photographic paper comes out.
That's it. One thing to note is they have gone up £5 from last edition.
Well,
so.
it may be the higher production quality, because this is all on photographic paper, isn't it?
It is really nicely produced. I mean, you expect that from Games Workshop. I mean, they charge a premium price, and they do attempt to give a premium product.
Yeah. Okay. So, feelings from the book, Michael. In terms of the layout, it's. I think that they've had a proper pass from the design on this.
Oh yeah, it's
had a new look.
It's lovely. It's got a great mix of new art. So we'll have a quick picture of this one here, which is a chapter I don't even recognise. But really brilliant looking new art combined with some real classics. Like one of my favourites is just on the very next page, which is this kind of like black and white one of original Space Marines lined up, Legion at war with Dreadnought behind them and the chaplain in.
Very nice. But that's another good example. They've blended the picture into it.
Yeah.
What I like about this is that, again, they've put, you've got contextual art around the outside banners. It's like it's the art holds the thing together.
Yeah, they've done the background of the paper matches with the art on the page.
Yeah,
really
that kind
flows
of stuff.
nicely.
I think it's really nice. Yeah, like I'm just looking at this Iron Hands bit here, and it feels blended in rather than just here's the page about the Iron Hands and here's a nice full colour picture of them. Well, there's anything wrong with that, but there's a consistency of style, and it's very modern looking. I think, whilst keeping that kind of Gothic Imperial feel to it, very modern style.
They've got lots of the little bits like the breakouts of weapons I always enjoy. Like here it's got the bit on the sacred bolters and going through the different types of bolters that are available, which I
think they've got it drawn on
very many nowadays.
Squared paper as a background.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can see that, but for those of us as kids, we did wargaming with bits of squared paper back then in D&D. Right, so we won't, obviously, this is the picture we saw blurry ages ago. We've all been waiting for forever.
Yeah, many people say, no, it's not real, it's not real.
Yeah, it was a pretty good job if it wasn't.
These are always one of my favourite pages, the pages and pages of different chapter colour schemes and such.
Yeah, now, okay, so chapter colour schemes, I like them. There's a lot of them that I like the look of, and I just think to myself, I'm never going to do that.
No.
Especially the ones that have got quartered.
Oh, the quartered. Is it Nova?
Like the Nova Marines or whatever. It's like not only is it a perfect symmetrical line down the middle. One of those colours is white.
Yeah.
So you've
or
got
yellow,
to be
even
joking.
worse.
White, I think it's worse than yellow.
Yeah, well, Nova Marines, Howling Griffins, they're the ones.
Yeah, you just look at them thinking, I admire the man who decides to go down that route.
I mean, you know me, I just spray stuff red, I mean.
Absolutely. Right, so, Michael, you've got some points down there. Let's talk about the broad themes of the books, because these guys are like...
Broad themes of the book which are important to come across are... Firstly, let's start with a few of the elephants in the room. We have the extra wound on all of the old-style classic Marines, or mini-Marines as some people call them. Myself as a massive... Oh, I just smacked my microphone. Myself as a massive user of old-style Marines, and I have a ginormous collection of old Star Marines. I'm really pleased with this change. It makes them feel far more Space Marine-like. And it's across the board, other than with Scouts and with characters. So all Terminators have gained a wound, all Old Star Bikes have gained a wound, all Tactical Marines, Veteran Marines, everything like that has gained a wound, so they're all set at 2 wounds. All of the characters are still 1 wound less than their Primaris equivalent, so a Primaris captain has 1 more wound than a normal captain, for instance.
Is it 1 wound and 1 attack, probably?
1 wound, 1 attack still.
Yeah.
But it just makes the basic Old Star Marines feel far more Marine-like, and also much more useful in the context of the army. And it's part of, I think, an overall shift in the game to develop elite infantry as 2 wound models, and then you can differentiate then with weapons that are designed to kill elite infantry, like plasma guns, some autocannon stuff now do 2 damage, compared to guns that do 1 damage, which is for killing chaff. Used to be just as good at killing Space Marines because weight of fire would kill them. So it's a really good way of differentiating weapon styles. So now you can have kind of like your anti-horde, your anti-elite infantry, then there's a plethora of models now with 4 to 5 wounds, so then you get another scale of weapon that does that, and then you've got your anti-tank weapons, so it just lets them differentiate weapons a lot more, which we see with the changes to the weapons in the Codex as well.
Yes, so you think as we see the other codexes, you're going to see like Orc Knobs are going to have 2 wounds, you're expecting it to go down
Orc
that route.
Knobs already have 2 wounds.
Do they? Okay. Okay.
But I think I wouldn't be shocked if Elder Aspect Warriors possibly got 2 wounds. That's a good way of showing.
Would you be shocked if Elder Aspect Warriors got plastic models?
I would be more shocked if that happened. But I think that in new codexes coming out, there will be a range of models that change up to 2 wounds. Like I think in the Necron Codex, the Death Marks have gone up a wound, or they've certainly gone up a toughness. They're now toughness 5 at least. But lots of the Necron weapons have gone up to 2 damage. So all their Praetorians, who are kind of like elite killers, they've gone up to 2 damage weapons. So even though a lot of people think Marines have doubled in wounds, actually they're going to...
But like heavy bolters do 2 damage.
They're going to change a load of weapons that are designed to kill Marines to deal 2 damage. So if you're using the right weapon for the right job, then they will be no more survivable, which I think is an excellent change in the game. It just gives a bit more granularity across the whole thing.
So, on a very simple level, Tactical Marine, looking at this, the Tactical Marine squad, 5 power.
Yep.
Intercessor squad, 5 power. Presumably similar number of points, we'll have a look at that in a moment. Why would you take Intercessors now then?
Because they still got +1 attack in close combat, which is really useful.
So as a Marine with a chainsword?
Yeah, Marine with a chainsword has, but you can't take chainswords on tactical squads unless you're
It's a Space Wolf in there. Yeah, okay.
But that's one reason to do so. Their weapons are still better. So a bolt rifle is -1 AP and has a bit more range than a bolt gun. So
but they can't take a missile launcher or a plasma cannon. They can't take the missile launcher.
And that's the general theme, is that Old Star Marines have a load of customization. You can give the sergeants pistols and axes and power fists and whatever. You can do that slightly with Intercessors, but then you've got your assault weapons, the flamer, the plasma, the grav, the melter, the heavy weapons, which are now a lot more usable in certain cases as well. But one of the big changes, this is a change in this codex, is stratagems. So they seem to have altered a lot of the stratagems, so that the stratagems now, one of the key things for playing Primaris is that it gives you access to stratagems. So if I go for a couple
of the stratagems that have keyword Primaris?
Well, not keyword Primaris, for instance, but let's take a few, for example. Honour the Chapter, one of the most powerful Space
That is my favourite one. Is it still my favourite one?
Maybe. So it used to be free CP, fight again with any Space Marine units. Now it only costs 2 CP. Fight again with Assault Intercessors.
That sucks.
Very much so. So
that's not fight again with Bjorn the Fell-Handed, is it?
No, it's not. Whether Blood Angels and Space Wolves, being the most assaulty chapters, get a different version, I don't know. But I think they're trying to rein in the double fighting stratagems, because there's a couple of other examples as well. But that's one example of Primaris gets a better stratagem. They could have written fight again with Assault Marines or Assault Intercessors, but they didn't write that. They just went to Assault Intercessors.
I'm pretty devastated by that news. that was like what 70-80% of my command points went
exactly.
on Honor the Chapter.
There's also another new.
Have you still got? Can you fight again when you're dead? Is that still in there?
That's still in there. You can fight again when you die with a character, as long as you haven't fought already this round.
So you can't fight again.
So you can't fight again. If somebody runs in, kills you with initiative, and then you can hit them back. But if you hit them, they hit you back, kill you. You can't then hit them again. So,
Mate.
I say it's kind of like a trend you can see.
I'm out. The only Space Wolf stratagem I ever used reliably was Honor the Chapter.
But that's the base stratagems. The Space Wolves may get a better one. Who knows? I suspect
Space Wolves always get better ones, right?
But one of the other big things is stratagem-wise, transhuman physiology.
Transhuman physiology.
One of the best stratagems for Space Marines. Improve the survivability of any Space Marine unit.
So get shot by a las cannon.
Yeah, transhuman it off. Now only usable on Primaris units.
Right.
And it only costs 1 CP unless the unit has more than 5 models, where it costs 2 CP. So it's cheaper on smaller units, but you can't use it on old school Marines at all. So that's another one of the we want you to play Primaris Marines. There's another one that lets you shoot again, but it's only with an intercessor or a veteran intercessor squad. So there's just looking through the stratagems, there's definite trend of we haven't given any real strats to old style models other than Terminators, which they still seem to like. But various different Primaris, like there's a strat for Gravis armor, which gives them +1 to their save against damage 1 weapons for Gravis armored Primaris Marines. So there's a few things like that in there that help out Primaris, and there's not very many that really help old style Marines.
So what do you think the thing with why they might be willing to throw Terminators a bone, but not other Marines?
And weirdly, it's they haven't made a normal kind of like little Space Marine for a long time now, but they're still making new Terminator models. Like there was a new Librarian Terminator as one of their special deals over the lockdown. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, the new Warhammer Day special model is an old chaplain in Terminator armor, and I think it's probably because Terminator armor is cool. People love like Terminator armor.
Well, I wondered whether it's also about their medium-term plans with people like the Grey Knights and the Emperor's Palace Guard, whatever they're called.
Custodes.
The Custodes. They're not. There's a Terminator thing going on there, and they're quite newish models, and they don't want to bin all that, maybe.
No, exactly.
So, but they're Terminators, aren't they? Terminators are a big feature of those armies.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, the Terminators, they are cool.
People love Terminators, and they've made Gravis armor, but it's not really a Terminator replacement because the Gravis armor units don't do anything that Terminators do, so it's not a replacement unit. Whereas so many of the others, you can see this is we'll get to them in a minute.
They don't
the new
teleport.
Floating Predators. It's a Predator without wheels. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Whereas they haven't made a direct Terminator replacement, and Terminators are. In the new rules, the Terminators are good. 3 wounds, their points have gone up very little.
Right.
Their weapons are all pretty darn usable. They are very solid units. You'll certainly be seeing Terminators on the table now. So
how much are we talking about for a Terminator with a Stormbolt?
So while we're doing that, we can go to
talk about that, can't we?
Lovely new points value page, which I'll show you. People will be pleased to see this. So now every unit is listed with all the upgrades it can take. It says at the start of the points value section, any upgrades a unit can take that aren't listed here, you pay no points for. So if it's not in the list, but it says you can take it in your unit data sheet, then you don't pay any points for it. So you won't see Chainsword appearing on any of these lists. If a unit can take it, it costs nothing. So let's go down for Terminators. They will be elite. So let's find... What should we go
Terminator
for?
Squad, 38 points a model. So on the face of it, that's a big increase.
It is, but that includes their Power Fists.
But that includes their Power Fists.
Because they're not listed on their little list of stuff.
But none of the melee weapons are listed there.
Exactly.
So it includes Power Fist or Chain Fist or Power Sword on the Sergeant.
Yep. All just comes for free.
The only things listed here are the heavy weapon option and teleport hammer, Salt Cannon 10, Cyclone Missile Launcher 25. That feels like a lot. Is it the same?
No, because it's 2 missile launchers. So I think it was initially 40 points back in the day. Then I think it reduced down to 30 something. And I think it's come down again to 25.
But that's a pair of crack missiles.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. Yeah. But you'll notice the Stormbolters aren't there. So that 38 points per model is Stormbolter, Power Fist, and Terminator with 3 wounds.
Yes.
That's pretty good. And if you go down to the Assault Squad, unit cost is 33 points a model. You can pay an extra 10 points.
I'm not seeing the word Storm Shield on there.
Yeah, because it automatically comes with the Thunderhammer, and you pay 10 points for the Thunderhammer upgrade, and that's baked in with your Storm Shield cost. So
because that's you can't take a Storm Shield. You can take
separately.
Thunderhammer and Storm Shield is the combination.
That's it. So it's baked in. So all the units are like that. Everything that has to be taken is baked into their cost, and where something has to be swapped out to take something else, that will have been taken off the cost of the something else.
Right.
So if a unit starts with a Storm Bolter and trades it in for a Combi Bolter, the price of the Storm Shield will already be taken off their price of a Combi Bolter. So it just makes everything much easier to work out the points of.
In terms of the layout, this is just so much better.
Oh,
isn't it?
I mean, the awful page flipping and referring to your chapter
and this is an alphabetical list of the units within groups. So it's an alphabetical list within the grouping. So you still need to know that the unit is an elite or an HQ or a fast attack, but that just stops it being a single massive alphabetical list.
One handy little thing at the top of each bit where it says Captain, it says page 129.
Oh, it even tells you what page.
So it tells you what page to flick to your unit on. Really good. I mean, it looks like somebody put a modicum of thought into it. It doesn't take much, but just a tiny modicum of thought, and then it works really well.
Alrighty, we're in danger of waffling on with no real structure to what we're saying. It's what we do. It's what we do. So should we talk about this new core?
Yeah,
thing?
core is a key thing. So Space Marines is an army that certainly in the past edition or two has run off aura abilities.
Yeah.
So your captain has his aura of reroll 1s, the lieutenant rerolls 1s to wound. Loads of other units have just bubbles they give out, and you'd find you'd have a big cluster of characters all giving out.
And you had these iron hands with overlapping invulns.
Yeah, and then you'd have loads of massive vehicles full of fire just running beside them, and it'd all be buffed up to the 9s. So they've changed it so certain units have core. Now, in the Space Marine Codex, the list of units that has core is basically every infantry unit that isn't a character, other than Centurions. They've kind of like been kicked to the curb and left out. So Terminators are core, all that kind of stuff is core. Bikes are all core, other than the new Invader. Got one here.
Oh.
Other than this bad boy. Dreadnoughts are all core. And what else is core? Not much else. So no characters, no vehicles other than Dreadnoughts. So they don't benefit from any of the bubbles. So none of the captain bubbles, none of the lieutenant bubbles. Most of the chaplain abilities key off the core keyword as well. Okay, so you can't use that. A lot of the stratagems will key off core. A load of the warlord traits will only work on core units, stuff like that. So core is a real key to tone down kind of like some of the abuses that people would have done. So mainly with vehicles, and it is one of the things that contributes to vehicles being a lot worse. There's loads of things that make vehicles a lot worse. People thought this edition was going to be the vehicle edition, and it is not playing that way. They've made loads of weapons deal more damage. They haven't given vehicles any more wounds.
Imperial vehicles don't have invuln saves. I was never buying into that vehicles are going to be better thing.
Yeah. I mean,
anti-tank weapons are only good
technically better, but anti-tank weapons have got so much better that vehicles are just pretty pointless. I mean, I play against my mate's Harlequins, and his little 6-wound transport is super survivable because I've got -1 to hit it.
And it's got a 4-up
It can move and fire and dive behind cover after it's shot. It's got a 4
10-wound rhino, 2 missiles.
Yeah, exactly,
boom.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Oh, Dreadnoughts,
Yeah. So speaking of that, let's talk about Dreadnoughts, because there is one Imperial vehicle that Michael's very excited about.
I love Dreadnoughts. I mean, you may have seen some of them on the channel here. I think I own maybe 15 Dreadnoughts. Yeah, probably.
Many of Michael's Dreadnoughts are entirely made of resin and have lots of crazy rules.
I've got nice Forge World ones. So all Dreadnoughts across the board, all that we've seen so far, so all that are in the main codex, all that are in here, and all that have appeared in the little PDFs they put out for the Blood Angels and Space Wolves and stuff, have this nifty new ability. I'm going to flick to one now. So it used to be a stratagem, but they've now just put it on the datasheet. So you're not paying any CP for this anymore. See which of us can find it first. Blimey, there are so many stuff. Here we go. So, Duty Eternal used to be a stratagem with the exact same name. It reads, each time an attack is allocated to this model, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1.
Bearing in mind that
all Dreadnoughts have that across the board.
Medium anti-tank weapons across the board have gone up to 2 damage.
Yeah, exactly. Loads of stuff's gone up to 2.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, Dreadnoughts with their 8 wounds, they're going to be in trouble here. Actually, no, they're much more survivable. They haven't really gone up in points because of it. They're just really solid. Loving the Dreadnoughts.
Yeah. Now I'm just looking at the Redemptor Dreadnought though, because I always had a problem with this, and I'm still not seeing. It's 9 power, which means it's going to be 180 points.
It is, but one of the things that the problem with the Redemptor,
I've got 3 of these and they're trash.
They've reduced the explosion on them.
Have they made them less volatile?
Yeah, so Redemptor Dreadnoughts used to explode for D6 damage to stuff nearby. They're now only D3, and normal Dreadnoughts only explode for 1, so that's another improvement on all Dreadnoughts. They've reduced their explosions to be far less killy to all the units around around them.
Redemptor Dreadnought 175, 5 points for the rocket pod, which was optional, I think, and 5 points for the Gatling cannon, which is the upgrade.
Everything else on there, you're getting in that 170 points, which I think is pretty reasonable now.
Yeah, but I'm
the -1 damage plays more for him because he's got 13 wounds.
Yes.
So it goes through a bit more onto that.
It's the footprint of the model.
Oh, it's huge.
You can't hide it. But now they can. The heavy weapons thing means he can move and fire, which again was a problem.
Plus for the Redemptor because he's. And you'll notice his Power Fist now does D3 plus 3 damage.
Oh, I like that.
That is a damaging weapon.
At strength 14. I mean, it was always good if you could get them to punch something. They're just such bullet magnets, and they didn't take that many bullets to destroy.
But now it takes more bullets to destroy. It can move easier, and it's more damaging in combat and less damaging to
you can deploy it hidden.
Yeah.
No, well, maybe.
Weirdly,
maybe
one of the things on the Invicta Warsuit, it's not a Dreadnought, so it doesn't have any of these bonuses. It's not core. It doesn't get the -1 damage.
Oh, this is core.
All the Dreadnoughts are core.
Oh, mate, might be getting my Redemptors out again.
Yeah, the Redemptors are really good. No, they're good.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, one of the best vehicles, I would say now. Really solid.
Do you reckon?
Yep. You wait, next game we play,
I had 3, I sold 1. Painted as well. I was just like, I'm never going to use this.
I'd have had that. I don't have a Redemptor. It's the only Dreadnought I don't own.
It's got Space Wolf markings on it, mate.
Oh, no, I don't want that crap.
You wouldn't even handle it, let alone buy it. No, I did genuinely had 3. And I thought I'll just keep 1 of each for the collection. I'd love to see that meaningful. But Dreadnought's looking interesting. How do they come out in Stratagems then?
So Stratagems, there's one other Dreadnought Stratagem, which is cool. I've got it written down somewhere.
Do they do that thing where they can be a captain for a turn?
Yeah, it's basically the captain for a turn. You pay a CP, it gets an aura of reroll 1s to hit. Now that only affects core units.
But it's core.
It's core. But one thing to remember is that they've also changed that stratagem up, so you can choose when you spend the CP whether to get the captain aura or the lieutenant aura of reroll 1s to wound. So you can have a dead lieutenant or a dead captain in your Dreadnought. So Dreadnoughts are just really good.
And the one thing that Redemptor's got is it's got a very big base.
Yeah, that aura
is quite generous.
A couple of centimetres or a couple of inches.
All right, well, that's it. That was the Dreadnought thing. What else have you got on the kind of broader structural
So other little things
changes?
to note are they have taken away a load of the little rules that you always forget and never use. So things like smoke grenades.
Yep.
Or popping smoke on your vehicles, you would never use because it said instead of firing. I mean, your massive firing tank, when it says instead of firing, you're never going to do that. So all of those rules have been taken off. Melter bombs no longer exist in their traditional sense. They're not a piece of equipment you can take. You just have it written on the bottom of your character sheet, on the bottom of your data sheet. Melter bomb. It's kind of like one of your keywords. You'll get smoke as one of your keywords. What other ones are
What about
there?
the Reaver thing, the shock grenades?
Shock grenades, they are now a keyword that appears on the bottom of a couple of character
do other people
things.
get it?
Yeah, what else? Yeah, because there's a Reaver Lieutenant gets it. Grav plates from the Primaris hover vehicles, the thing that used to allow them to have -2 to be charged.
Oh, that's a strategy. That's
That's gone. So they're now all keywords on the bottom of your data sheets, and there's now stratagems associated with all of those. So smoke is now, when one of your units that has the smoke keyword is targeted, spend a CP, it's -1 to hit for the shooting phase.
Oh, I like that a lot more.
Much more usable. You'll use it all the time now.
But you can only use it on one unit.
Only
so
use
it's
it
still,
on one.
Yeah. It's
the grav
tactically
plates
flexible.
are now a stratagem that you use. It can do one of 2 things. It lets you either leave combat and still shoot, so that those tanks used to be able to do, or it can reduce the charge distance of enemy models charging you. So another useful thing, the shock grenades do similar. You can pay CP to use them. Melter bombs, units of melter bombs, which are tactical squads and assault squads, traditional marine things, can spend a CP in combat, make a single attack. If it hits, a vehicle unit takes 2d3 damage, mortal wounds. So
nice,
really powerful 1 CP stratagem from a tactical squad. So loads of those little abilities have gone. A couple of units had Hammer of Wrath. I think the Inceptors had it. That's now gone to a stratagem that can be activated on any jump pack units, and it's much better at it now as well. It does loads more mortal wounds. So all those little incidental abilities that you never really used are now stratagems, and they've made all of them a bit more useful as well, so you'll actually use them.
Moving the shock grenades to a stratagem means you don't have that, I need to be able to throw this grenade, it needs to be in range problem. I'm just looking at, so one of the units that I was always disappointed with was the Reavers. Not just because they're wearing long hockey socks, not just because they're wearing stupid face masks, but because the unit just didn't do what you needed it to do. It wasn't a combat unit, it wasn't a scout unit, it just Models that don't do anything.
It's still not brilliant, unfortunately. They've made their pistol slightly better. They've got an interesting stratagem, which...
Special issue bolt pistol.
Special issue bolt pistol,
which is AP -2.
Yeah, they've got an interesting...
Unfortunately, they've got a combat knife instead of the Astartes chainsword.
Yeah.
So they're not getting the -1 AP, which was the bit they really needed to make them fight.
Here we go.
Their terror troops has gone up to -2 leadership.
It has, and that keys
and I think that's
here.
quite a big deal.
So there is a stratagem called terror troops as well. Select a Reaver unit from your army. That unit gains the following ability, terror troops. Until the start of your next command phase, while an enemy unit is within 3 inches of this unit, it loses the objective secured ability and any similar ability that allows them to control an objective marker regardless of the number of enemy models. So it removes objective secure from enemy models, which in today's objective-based games is really powerful. And the second part of this stratagem, if you're within 3 inches of an enemy unit that's performing an action, you can roll 2d6.
Which is part of the mission structure, if you're not familiar
with missions. Roll 2d6. If you roll more than their leadership, the action fails.
Because they're all shaking.
Yeah, they're all scared of you. So,
nice.
I mean, I don't think it's still very good. That stratagem costs 2 CP, but if it works, that has a big change in the actual outcome of the game. It's not killing stuff, but it alters the game.
This has got keyword shot grenades as well then. So you said that that's going to key off a stratagem.
Look here.
I'm just wondering how much this unit now...
So, shock and awe. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when an Adeptus Astartes shock grenade or land speeder storm, because they used to have a similar shock launchery thing on it.
Land speeder storm is the one that transports scouts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Select one enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit. Until the start of your next turn, the selected unit cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. Each time a model in the selected unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll.
Still got to be within 6 before you do it.
Still got to be within 6.
Before you move?
Before you shoot, so you do it in the shooting phase.
You move, then you shoot, then you charge?
Yeah. So
is that right?
Yeah. So if you're within 6, you can use it to deny Overwatch. You can throw it at an enemy that's got a big gun that you don't want to engage and it gets -1 to shoot.
Yeah.
If you hit an enemy model you're about to charge, it gets -1 to
really
hit
wish
you in
that wasn't range dependent and it was part of the charge action.
Yeah. It would be anyone you charged you could do it would be a lot lot better. Because 6 inch...
I just think grenades in general really struggle with that problem. So grenades are assault weapons. I like in terms of their application. There's something you use up close.
That's one of the things I like
closing.
they changed about the melter bombs, because previously I think it was something like 4-inch range or 3-inch range maybe.
Yeah.
And it cost the same as a melter gun, and it did what a melter gun did, but at 3 inches instead of 12. So that's now a much better thing.
Yeah, but it's situationally. But -2 leadership, I think given the way that leadership works now, I think that's going to... Well, even Space Marines are going to fail on 6.
Yeah. Well, Space Marines no longer get to re-roll their morale checks, and the basic Space Marine has 7 leadership, 8 with a sergeant. So -2 leadership takes that down to 6 even with a sergeant. Lose a couple of models, they are reasonably likely to lose a model, even on 5-man squads.
Yeah.
And Nation Know No Fear now lets you ignore modifiers to the combat attrition test, which is still useful, but it means leadership is a bit more important to them, so that's good to have in the game, I think. Yeah,
definitely. You want leadership to make a difference.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's interesting that morale is going to reduce your fighting effectiveness, but it's not going to just wipe you out over a certain threshold.
I much prefer the new morale rules.
Because it made spending the command points in the previous edition was a certainty.
Yeah.
So I am going to auto pass this because otherwise the unit is destroyed.
Because you have to stay on that objective.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so should we have a talk about the chapter tactics and the big four and how they've changed?
So one of the big things
I
about
would
the
call
Codex
the big four
is obviously that all of the chapters are in here, other than Grey Knights and Legion of the Damned. All the chapters.
So the Death Watch are in here.
Death Watch are in here. Death Watch, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and all the original ones are all in here. There's even Flesh Tearers are even given in here with their own kind of chapter tactics.
Blood Angels, but they're painted with nail polish instead of lipstick.
They're basically worse Blood Angels, unfortunately.
Worse Blood Angels.
But all other Space Marines are worse Blood Angels too, so... So as far as chapter tactics go, more or less all of them have stayed the same. Like the Blood Angels, who, and I know I'm biased, but I think they've got one of the best set of chapter tactics. Makes them hit harder and move faster. Why wouldn't you want that? But as far as the other ones go, Space Wolves have changed slightly. They now get to heroically intervene with all models in their army, which is a really powerful ability and gives them back the kind of like counter-assault part they had previously. Dark Angels have got a lot better. Instead of re-rolling ones to hit when they don't move, they now get +1 to hit when they don't move. And interestingly, it doesn't say on ranged attacks. So that's +1 to hit in close combat as well if the unit hasn't moved. So that's pretty powerful.
I'm getting a lovely plasticated book smell.
I opened this
as I flick through it.
I opened this a couple of days ago, and I was sitting there reading it on the sofa, and my wife said, "That book smells horrible."
No,
I love the smell of a new book. Other things that have changed, the Raven Guard got a little worse. Theirs is now 18 inches away instead of 12 inches away to gain the benefits of their cover. The Death Watcher, interesting. So the Death Watcher being given proper chapter tactics, which they didn't have when they had their own codex. So each time a model of this tactic makes a melee attack against Tyranid, Eldar, Orc, Necron or Tau unit, it rerolls hit rolls of 1.
So that's the Captain aura, but except...
It's only melee and it's only against aliens, basically, but it's not too bad. And then after both sides have finished deploying their armies, select a battlefield roll. Until the end of the battle, each time a model with this tactic makes an attack against an enemy unit with that battlefield roll, re-roll a wound roll of 1. So that can be quite powerful. You get to assess your opponent's
They had
army.
that before, didn't they?
They did. It's slightly different form, but yeah, it was basically they had that rule before.
Select one battlefield roll, that's like elite troops.
Yeah.
I think that is how it worked before.
It was, but it wasn't their chapter tactic. It was kind of like a special bonus thing that loads of their other rules interacted with, so we'll have to wait till their codex, their supplement comes out to see how much that's changed. In general, the successor chapter traits, which a lot of people used to make their armies out of and say they were following an original chapter, I think they've been toned back slightly in power.
So these are the build your own chapter.
Yeah, they're the ones that you choose 2 of.
You just choose 2 better ones than are available by taking a codex.
Yeah, so a lot of them have stayed the same. But a lot of the ones that stayed the same are the ones that you didn't see very often. The most popular ones have always been, let's quickly find them down here, Master Artisans. Each time a unit is selected to shoot or fight with this tactic, it used to say you can reroll 1 hit roll and 1 wound roll. Super powerful. It's the same as the Salamander's chapter tactic, but both the Salamander's chapter tactic and this successor trait, Master Artisans, has now been changed. You only get to reroll a wound roll.
Right.
No, you can reroll a hit roll. I thought it was a wound roll. Interesting, the Necron one has changed to just be a wound roll. Their one is just a hit roll. So it's got much worse. You're now getting 1 less reroll out of that per unit.
Yeah.
Long range marksman no longer affects flame weapons. That used to be a thing that was often taken, was long range marksman to make your flame weapons have longer range.
But that's not so necessary anymore.
Not so necessary.
Not talked about the weapons yet, but flamers just got a lot better.
They certainly did. And the last one that was really used was the stealthy, which has also changed to be 18 inches away to gain the benefits of cover instead of 12 inches away. So
the benefits of light cover is not be -1 to hit.
No, it's not. It used to be the benefits of light cover as well.
Did it?
The Raven Guard get the -1 to hit in addition, but this used to be 12 inches away, but now they shrunk the board and increased the range on that as a much worse trait. So I think most people probably won't make their own unless they have real fluff reasons for doing so. They'll probably just play with their chapter, because I think most of the combinations of actual chapter tactics are slightly better than these to encourage you to use them, I suspect.
Right then, Michael, I'm looking at a new section in this book that I don't recognise called Chapter Commands.
So this
or
is...
you Southerners would say command.
Command. When I'm near you, I kind of like develop a slightly northern drawl, so I'll go command.
You'll go command.
So this is a modified version of what appeared in the Psychic Awakening series of books.
Yes.
The Space Marine got this, and you used to have to pay a command point to upgrade one of your characters to the special versions they had.
Yep.
They would gain a special ability, and then they'd get access to 2 relics and 2 warlord traits, which you could again pay more CP to take and such. While we're on that, I'll just mention relics and warlord traits. They've done an interesting change to that, which I suspect we'll see going into every other book as it comes out. So the buy extra relics stratagem costs 1 CP for an extra relic. And then it used to be you paid 3 CP for the next additional relic, and then it changed to just be 1 CP for an additional relic, and you could buy as many as you want. So now it's 1 CP per relic, and you can buy extra warlord traits for 1 CP as well, and you can only use this stratagem once in a small game. You can use it twice in a medium-sized game.
So that's that combat patrol, strike force thing.
That's it. So the amount of times you can buy extra relics or extra warlord traits is now tied to your game size.
Oh, I like that.
So a standard 2,000 point game, you can buy 2 extra relics, I believe, and you can buy 3 extra relics in a 3,000 point game and 1 extra relic in a 1,000 point game. I think that's it.
Okay.
So it's quite an interesting way, and I suspect that'll be the same in every codex going forwards.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
Although they might change the boundaries as they talk with chapter approach. It might become 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Or whatever, but yeah.
So chapter commands.
So this seems to be part of what seems, broadly speaking, is there's a move away from giving you things that you really ought to pay points for with command points, like things that improve things pre-game.
So it's going away from that though. So
yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking, because now this isn't a stratagem. This is you're going to pay for
points,
it,
which I much prefer.
I think so as well.
I mean, we all spent the command points pre-battle, but they're kind of like supposed to be there to help you in the middle of the battle. I mean, spending a load of my Custode army, it spends like 7 pre-game.
Yes.
I'd prefer to spend a few extra points and then have those available in-game. So these are much better, and they seem to have pointed like Chapter Master, which used to be a no-brainer 2 CP, give you a full reroll bubble, now costs 40 extra points.
Yeah, and your basic captain probably is about 80 points.
Yeah, something like that, 80, 90 points, I'd think.
Your basic captain, you know, your standard minimum ones is 85 points, so that's 50% extra.
And the 40-point chapter upgrade no longer makes a bubble of reroll. It's choose a single core unit or character unit, so it's slightly better than the normal captain thing, to have full rerolls to hit. So choose a single unit within 6.
Full rerolls.
Full rerolls, so like the Chapter Master used to be, but instead of every unit nearby, you choose a single core or character unit. So he can choose himself, interestingly.
Right.
So if you've got a guy armed with a Thunderhammer, you might want to make him a Chapter Master for 40 points to give him rerolls to hit with his Thunderhammer. But that's the only way he's getting his rerolls to hit.
So you think this is you could still do the Smash Captain thing?
You could. He's a lot more expensive, and Thunderhammers are worse. So
Thunderhammers are worse.
They've got 1 less AP now.
Oh.
They're only AP 2. So they've evened up. Thunderhammers and Chain Fists and Power Fists now all have their own specific uses. Power Fist has the most AP and reliable damage. Chain Fist has has more damage versus vehicles, but rolls less damage versus other things, and Thunderhammer does the most damage but has worse AP, and they're all -1 to hit all times.
So it's not a straight like this.
It's not this Thunderhammer is just better than everything else.
Yes,
it's now a choice what you take.
People sawing off Thunderhammers all over the world.
Yeah. So all of these chapter commands, they've made them all a bit simpler. There's only 1 relic, 1 warlord trait option on each.
Alright, so we're seeing in these Master of the Forge chapters, I'm seeing now that what do you get for doing this?
Yeah, so you'll see they have different layouts, and it tells you can get different things there that you can do. The standouts for me are the Master of Sanctity is the upgrade to a chaplain. He can use an additional litany each turn, so that doubles his effective power basically. And the warlord trait he can take lets you add 1 to the roll when rolling for that litany, and reduces the command point cost of one of the stratagems by 1. So that seems really powerful. And the other one, which I think we'll see a lot of, is the Chief Apothecary, because it lets you heal an extra time a turn, and also the Warlord trait is really good because it reduces the heal stratagem that Apothecaries can use to 0 CP cost, so you'll literally use it every turn.
Yeah, so the 0 CP stratagem is another thing from this edition, isn't it? Which I like it as a mechanic. It's a way of marshalling, saying, this is an ability that this army can do quite freely, but still only once.
Yeah, so there's no point spamming loads of units that can do it because they can't all do it.
Yes,
it's a nice control.
I like that. It stops that kind of anything. The bits that I don't like about Warhammer is when it gets nudged and you really leverage in a particular direction. And I understand competitive players need to do that, but it's like okay, anything that allows you to focus down that narrow is pushing the envelope of the game too much.
And the design space, they seem to be trying to encourage you to field the armies they want you to field.
Yeah.
Like there's a rule in here, I can't remember exactly where it is, which is something like chapter command. You can only have 1 captain per detachment, and you can only have 2 lieutenants per detachment. So you can no longer go, I'm taking, not that you want to, because Smash captains are nowhere near as good as they were, but you can no longer take 3 captains in a thing.
But that doesn't mean that there isn't something else like, well, actually now the captain in Gravis armour with this stratagem and this relic has suddenly become really good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has, by the way, but they're protecting themselves against something will replace the Smash captain.
Oh, definitely.
And it might be the librarian now. The Terminator librarian may effectively do the same thing.
Exactly. There's always, whenever you make a system as complex as 40k, there's always the best thing.
Yes.
You can then reduce the best thing to not be as good, but then the next best thing will become the best thing. There's always the best thing.
Yes.
Okay, what other things have we got to talk about? So that was the chapter
That's the chapter command, and it's all the major characters. So you got the captain, the chaplain, the tech marine, the librarian, the apothecary, the ancient, and the company champion.
Yep.
Now the chapter champion, I'm just going to look at him because he's normally really crap. Nobody takes this character.
He's not bad.
So what do we get out of this?
Not bad because the base is pretty cheap.
Yes, it's a cheap model. But he's just a hero with no special auras or whatever.
So now he gets -1 to be hit in close combat.
Okay, that's a big deal if you want him to actually
good.
fight something dangerous.
Reroll wounds in close combat versus enemy characters. Gain an extra attack, an extra leadership. You can take a really good sword, which is basically a +3 strength, -3 AP, flat 3 damage sword.
Rather than flat 1.
Yeah. It'd have been increased to flat 2 now because it's a mastercrafted sword.
One, yeah.
But that's a really good sword he can take. And his warlord trait lets him reroll charge rolls. So
no, let's core chapter and core character reroll charges. That's good.
Really good.
That is something that, for example, Space Wolves desperately need that.
And that's an aura that affects things other than core, which is
including characters.
Rare,
yeah. But if there's some armies that just can't do these, probably what are they called? The Black and White Knights Templar.
The Black Templars.
But there's armies that you want to assault with, and they don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have that. Improve the charge.
No, that's really
and it's
strong.
what they're really missing. Blood Angels have got a million ways to do it, and that's why they work as an assault army. Space Wolves don't, and that's why your Thunderwolf cavalry never make it.
Oh, you'll like the new Thunderwolf cavalry.
Well, I like the new Thunderwolf cavalry.
If you haven't read, so they've also, I'll just quickly cover this. They've also released. They're not in here, but they've released a PDF for the special Snowflake chapters. So Space Wolves, Blood Angels,
Snowflake,
Dark. I'm one of them. Dark Angels and Deathwatch, and they're a hold me over codex. They completely get rid of all other rules you have anywhere for them. No longer valid. These PDFs are your only rules. They don't have very many stratagems in. They don't have very many relics in.
But you get all of the things.
You get all the units, and all the units look like they've been completely refreshed up to this kind of new standard.
Right.
So the Thunderwolves, for instance, have gained a wound.
Right. They already had 3, I think, or 4.
Yeah, so they're now 4. They've gained the ability to advance and charge.
Whoa! Okay, I'm in.
I thought you might be. And
I've got 3 on sprue, and I've got 3
I don't think they've gone up any points, and there's a couple of other bonuses they've gained. Thunderwolves are the new
Storm
meta.
Shields have got bad, though, haven't they?
Storm Shields in everything, so including other codexes that have them in things like Custodes. They're actually better for Custodes. They now give +1 to your saving throw, but they only give you a 4+ invulnerable save.
So the 4+ invuln, but +1 save.
So generally, you're better versus small arms fire, worse versus big.
I've got to say, I don't like invulns, and I really don't like 3-up invulns.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I don't like reliable invulns. I think they need to get. I don't mean that, like, okay, 3-up invuln. The Emperor should have a 3-up invuln.
Like, the only unit that's flat. Well, I think there are 2 Space Marine units that still have a 3-up invulnerable. Rabute Gulliman.
Bobby G, yeah.
He keeps his 3-up invulnerable.
He is the Emperor's regent.
And I think the Space Wolf character with the shield, what's his name?
Arjak.
Arjak.
Arjak!
He's still got a 3-up, and the Ultramarine Honor Guard. They don't come with Storm Shields. They come with Vitrix Storm Shields.
Vitrix Storm Shields,
which
mate.
it specifically calls out in the errata for their thing that they still give a 3-up. So I think they're the only 3 things with a 3-up. So
nice.
3-ups are much rarer, and I would again. Going forwards, I think other codecs will probably have less powerful invulnerable saves. I'm hoping that's a trend. Things like the Impulsor has gone down to a 5-up invulnerable save instead of a 4-up.
Yeah.
Just a
they're too reliable.
Yeah, exactly. It's too reliable.
It's too reliable.
It's no
and
fun.
anyone who's played demons knows there's a big difference between a 6-up feel no pain and a 5-up feel. One happens, and by the time you get to 4. A 4-up invuln save is a
I play against my mate's Harlequin army. His entire army has at least a 4-up invulnerable save.
Yeah.
So when choosing weapons, a las cannon's the same as a bolt gun, more or less, because it's only toughness 3.
Exactly.
And it's a 1-wound model. It's completely pointless having more powerful weapons.
Yeah. All right. I like these, and I hope that through these characters that they're able to fill in. Not necessarily make everybody as good, but if things like that are replicated throughout the Codex. This is a big gap for this army, but there is a vanilla version of this.
Exactly, and
it's nowhere near as good as being a Space Wolf with the Stratagem, but it is giving me something in that area.
They all key together quite nicely, so certain chapters can't take them, like the Chapter Champion can't be taken for the Black Templars, because they've already got a special, the Emperor's Champion.
They've got the Emperor's Champion.
You can't take the Chapter Ancient for Blood Angels, because the Sanguinary Ancient always carries the Chapter banner. So that's all built in fluff-wise. Things like Chief Librarian. Mephiston is the Chief Librarian, so he has that keyword on his character sheet, as does Najal Stormcaller. Things like that. So because they're building all the Space Marines together, they've made that flat across the board, so everything works the same, and all the keywords trigger together. Really much better way of doing it.
I think so. So I like that. Stratagems we talked about. Oh, but we didn't see the layout.
Yes.
So this is. I'm not.
There's now categories of stratagems.
First glance, maybe get still. I'm not so keen on this. In terms of the layout,
I think it's harder to identify the individual ones.
It's a bit like, whoa! They're all different colours.
They're different colours because there are now different types. So we have a battle tactic stratagem, an epic deed stratagem, a requisition stratagem, which are generally the ones before games, so that's quite nice being called out. Strategic ploy stratagems, which most of them are. War gear stratagems. Not much really refers to that. I think they're future-proofing that if they wish to. There's only one thing I found that refers to a different type of stratagem, and that's Commander Dante, leader of the Blood Angels, whose spangly new datasheet makes him a lot better than he was.
Oh, really?
And he has an ability which is something like Hero of Epic Legend or something is his ability, and once per game you can use an epic deed stratagem for no command point cost if it targets him.
Right, so it's building, and again that's about structuring your rules well, isn't it? It's building some space to grow.
That's it.
In those areas.
They've obviously thought of these things. There aren't any in this book that I've noticed, but there will be in future books.
But in truth, as much as this is the book for all Space Marines, it's also the book for no Space Marines.
Exactly.
Because everybody's getting another book. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of saying, to me as someone who was returning to 40k, it was utter madness that the Dark Angels were not in the Space Marine book. Because they had a different book. But they're just Space Marines with 3 different units. And I don't understand why that's considered.
And it's so much
historically, it developed as a separate army without really being one. So seeing everybody starts the same and then gets their own flavour.
I mean, I'm an old school player. I've played since first edition. I love my Blood Angels. We've had our own codex. I'm really happy we're now in this book. Just makes the whole thing much better, much clearer.
Absolutely. Relics, Warlord traits, we're in danger along in this out. Any standout features from that?
Not really. There's a Warlord trait that lets you give out Objective Secure, which is really powerful, and the one of the relics that slightly changes the armour Indomitus now gives you a +1 toughness and still can give you a 3-up invulnerable save, so that's quite a powerful protective relic.
Is that the one that gives you the Deny the Witch?
No, it's the one that once per game you can activate a better force field and it gives you 2-up armour normally. So it's a good relic.
In terms of the psychic powers?
So there's only 2 notable things. The Obscuration Disciplines had a couple of slight changes, but the main things to note on psychic powers are Null Zone, which was the most powerful power previously.
Yes.
Is still very similar, except it now says, until the end of your psychic phase, while a unit is within 6 inches of this psychic, each time an attack is made against that unit, invulnerable saves cannot be made. Do you notice the difference?
Hang on. Until the start of your next psychic phase, when the unit is within 6 inches, each time an attack is made against that unit, invulnerable saving throws cannot be made against that attack.
So it used to say enemy unit.
Yes.
Now affects your own models. So if he's standing next to Bobby G and he's casting, Bobby G doesn't get his 3-up invulnerable anymore.
Nice.
So that's quite a big change. And the other one is Psychic Fortress, which I think is going to be the new go-to power, is a blessing. They've also introduced back the different types of psychic power, so you have a Witchfire.
Yeah, I'm seeing Might of Heroes as a blessing.
Yeah, that's again, I've only found one reference as a Deathwatch character that gets +1 to cast Witchfires, for instance. Right. But back to Psychic Fortress, it gives an aura of 5+ invulnerable save to friendly units within 6 inches. Not core units.
You're casting that every turn.
You're using that all the time. It affects your vehicles, it's everything. Really good.
But now we've been moved into the main book, presumably all of the wizards in here can choose from the Librarian's Discipline.
And then when you
we can reasonably expect when they bring out the sub ones, there'll just be an extra set of disciplines.
And historically from the other chapter expansion books, you have to choose to have all of your powers from one or the other. So you can't mix and match. You can't have Null Zone along with kind of like the Quickening if you're a Blood Angel.
Yeah.
You have to choose a discipline and go for it, but it just gives you more choice for all the other
Absolutely.
chapters.
And the Obscuration discipline was only open to 4 boss
Only on the Phobos one.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, and they're still semi-useful powers. Tenebrous Curse was the best, which they've increased the warp charge of and reduced the range of, so they made it a bit worse. Oh, and weirdly they've made Fury of the Ancients, a power nobody ever took, which was the draw a line and hit stuff under it power.
Yep.
I think they've made that worse. Oh no, they've made that better. It used to be 12 inches, it's now 18 inches, and it used to be warp charge 7, and it's now 6, I believe.
So you basically pick a point up to 18 inches away, put a bit of wall down there, anything that it crosses
used to
takes
be
a mortal wound.
much worse. It's now actually semi-usable because it's got an extra 50% range.
That takes a mortal wound, you're not rolling for it.
Yeah.
That's straight up good.
Yeah, if you can get lots of units in
18
a row.
inches?
Yeah, it only affects each unit it passes over though, not each model. So you need to hit multiple units to get multiple mortal wounds out of it.
Right. But considering you only get D3 out of...
Exactly, so it's certainly a usable power now.
Litanies of Battle, again...
More or less exactly the same. One of them slightly changed, but it's much the same. The important ones are still the same. Right. This is an important thing to talk about. So it's got this title, Chapter Approved Rules. It's only got 1 page, but it's referencing the Chapter Approved, which is the mission rules. And it's given you 3 new secondary missions you can choose if you're a Space Marine. Which is...
I would not... I looked at this and I thought,
you wouldn't think
we're not looking at Chapter Approved, we can move on.
Yeah. Interesting, I was fearing these because, and I still fear them for other codexes, because if they come out, and some of them are too good, they're always going to be chosen.
With that every game.
None of these are too good. I mean, one of them, Codex Warfare, is barely usable. It's gain a victory
and it's the one with the most words.
So
yeah, he saved
you have to kill units in the different types of what they called, where you get the -1 AP to your different types of weapons. I can't remember what they call them now. Can't remember what it's called.
-1 to different types of weapons.
You know, the thing that changes per turn, starts in heavy, goes to assault.
Oh, it's, tactical doctrines.
That's it. I'll start that bit again. Yeah, so Codex Warfare means you have to kill stuff in the different doctrines, and you get 1 for each enemy unit you kill while in that doctrine. So heavy doctrine, you only stay in for 1 turn, so you've got to kill 5 units in the first turn to get your max out of this.
Right.
So really difficult to get. So
yeah.
And they're also, I feared that there'd be your special chapter category that you could choose from, but they're not. They all slot into the categories that are already in the chapter approved books.
Right.
So that's a Purge the Enemy stratagem. There's a No Mercy, No Respite one. There's a Battlefield Supremacy one.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, they're not, I don't think they're game changing. A couple of these are usable. You might take them. None of them go, every time I'm playing Space Marines, I'm taking this, which is
good.
how you want it to be balanced. So
yeah, absolutely.
Pointing out.
And they're not just giving you saying we're going to give you loads of points for doing the thing that you are always going to do.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like one of them is about taking objectives off the opponent each turn. You gain points if you do that in every turn. You gain 3 victory points. So that's something Space Marines should be good at doing because they're a good midfield, move forward army.
Yes, they shoot and they fight.
But it's not just have a Space Marine on the table, gain some command points, which it could have been.
Yeah, we are longing this out, aren't we?
Always, as we do.
So, should we talk about some weapon profiles and some exciting unit profiles?
Yeah, so...
big changes. I mean, people probably know a lot about this,
yeah,
but
this is really simple. They basically upgraded a load of weapons, so...
Lots of weapons, particularly heavy weapons.
Yeah. Certainly melee weapons we'll start with. We talked about thunderhammers and stuff. They basically evened them up. Mm-hmm. All the flat power weapons, power sword, power axe, power maul, gain +1 strength across the board.
If you want the memorandum form, power swords are massively better than they used to be. Just take a power sword.
And I think one of the reasons for that is all of their models they released, they give power swords to. And nobody wanted to take them.
Because they just had AP.
Yeah.
They've given them +1 strength as well as the AP. And what that means is if you're strength 3, you're suddenly strength 4, which means you're competing with Marine. And if you're strength 4, again, you've got an advantage against times 4 mod. It's +1 to wound in many situations for everyone. And it was the bit that they really lacked for.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, melee in 40k is, and certainly in the past kind of couple of years I've been playing, is predominantly about removing hard targets.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what it's for. You shoot things that are not, that are not terribly difficult to shift. If you really need to get rid of something big, you have to punch it, and a power sword was never the right choice for that.
But now it's probably the best choice.
choice.
Chain swords have gained an AP. That's pretty
for
common.
Marines.
For Marines, yeah, they've now got a special Astartes chainsword. Is bigger and grumblier.
And again, a lot of those weapons, the millions. We had it in a game we played, didn't we?
Yeah.
The million strength for AP0 attacks. It just doesn't seem to translate to what you think it should.
Yeah, you don't want your guards to have a
-1
5-up save versus your Space Marine.
Yeah, whereas the -1 is just going to shift that balance quite a lot. I think it's pretty much everything is affected by a -1 AP save.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good weapon now, a chainsaw, especially for no cost because it doesn't.
And there's still no
cost
cost on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Grey Hunters.
What else have we got? So range weapon wise, they've changed all the basic assault weapons. So melter guns now, instead of re-rolling damage at half range, now get +2 damage.
So it's D6 +2 at any range.
Just at half range.
Right.
So it's just improved damage. On average, it's only maybe 1 better damage, but I think most people prefer a D6 +2 than a re-roll.
Yeah.
And you can always re-roll it with a stratagem.
Well, it's also the game, in terms of speeding up the game, there's a lot of
They've taken out a
and
lot of the
re-rolls
re-rolls from the army with the changes to the auras and stuff.
Because I play a lot of different games and a lot of different systems, you really notice that re-rolls are not common in other systems. And the number of times you're like, okay, even a 2-up. A 2-up in Warhammer is guaranteed.
Yeah.
A 2-up in anybody else's game isn't.
Exactly.
Because there's no re-roll.
They've certainly toned down the re-rolls across the whole book with all the changes to auras and things like that. Flamers, we spoke about earlier, they've gained
huge
range. You can now shoot when you come down from deep strike. You can now always shoot on Overwatch with them because they've got 12-inch range. So really good Flamers across the board. Plasma guns, every plasma weapon in the game has now changed. So instead of overheating on a 1.
Oh, they're not affected by modifiers to hit.
It's now a natural 1. So shooting an Eldar flyer with its -3 to hit, you don't
guarantee to blow yourself
on a
up.
4 or less. So that's a slight change. Those grav weapons have slightly changed. They now do 2 damage instead of D3.
I like that.
A few other weapons have changed, but it's mainly the core kind of like special weapons have changed. Heavy bolters deal 2 damage. There's
and you pay for it. And so I'm less keen on that just because of the role. It's the guard player in me rather. The heavy bolter was the cheap general purpose weapon, and it's now quite expensive and isn't a general purpose weapon.
No.
You don't want to fire heavy bolters at guardsmen or vehicles. You really need to shoot marine equivalents with it.
That's what we were talking about earlier. As the heavy bolter is now a more elite killer. It's not a chaff killer.
Yeah,
things like your assault cannons for stuff like that.
Yeah, but being only strength 5, there's a lot of high toughness infantry that is still not a good weapon choice for, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's basically designed to kill Marines.
Yeah.
And even then, it doesn't punch through their armour that well, but it's got multiple shots. And then we'll just quickly go through a few of the unit changes that are important. So we'll start out scouts, no longer troops. Big change. They used to be the basis of many an army, was cheap scouts filling out troop choice. They're now elites.
And the Space Wolves have really felt that because ours were always elites.
Yeah, exactly. And now normal scouts have become far more like the Space Wolf ones because they've all gained the ability to outflank.
So you can still advance deploy them.
Yep.
You can still outflank them.
Yep.
You can still take a power fist on the sergeant.
You can.
If you keep batchy.
Space Wolves can still take special weapons in theirs, but the normal scouts can't. And they can still take snipers, which is still a use for them. They're not awful, but I don't think we'll see them very much. They're no longer troops. They don't have obsec. They don't fill out a slot in your army. Not that useful.
Unless you're theme players.
Yeah.
Then, or you want the Landspeeder Storm for some reason,
or something like that,
for some other particular reason. But so that I mean, I kind of like that insofar as I never liked the fact that the 8th edition Space Marine meta was a swarm of scouts and then something else.
Yeah, exactly. First thing you used to do was we'll have 3 minimum squad scouts. That's 200 points spent. Done. Troops are done. Ignore them. But with the changes to the way detachments are formed, it's slightly different than that now anyway, because you don't need to spend loads on troops.
There's a few changes that have interacted with that, haven't they?
Yeah, it makes a much better army building.
But you take scouts because you want that kind of cheap but specialist rule.
I think they now have that. They're the deployment specialists. You can, at the start of the game, you can choose to have them on an objective, or you can choose to outflank them. And come
I think there's still value in having a unit that outflanks for free.
Yeah, definitely,
Especially because they can, presumably, they can still take like pistols and chainswords.
And they're still the cheapest Space Marine infantry unit. So they're still
and they're core, and they're going to have all of those things. Yeah. Right.
Other standout units, the Apothecary. I think that you'll see the Apothecary in more or less every army. He has a bubble that has 6 up, feel no pain, so a 6 up to ignore any wounds taken, which gives out in a 3-inch aura to units within 3 inches. So one model of a unit's within 3 inches of him, the whole unit has 6 up, feel no pain.
But with the new cohesion rules, you're not going to have a spider's web of units coming out.
But also, with all the Marines being multi-wound, the feel no pain or ignore wounds roll.
You've got much more chance to kick in.
Yeah, they're far more relevant on multi-wound models, because you're being shot with a load of 2 damage weapons. Every 6 you make saves another Space Marine from dying.
Another bullet.
It's, really powerful.
So what I don't like about that is the Space Marine Codex has got quite a bit of 6 up, feel no pain as special abilities.
I mean, the Iron Hands have it completely. So
Iron Hand, but people, the Mephiston have a feel no pain.
He has a
people
feel
can
no
take it as warlord traits.
Yeah, the Death Company have it. There's various other things.
And people are otherwise paying for that as an ability.
Yeah.
And when that's just one ability on the reason, that's not the only reason to take the Apothecary.
Oh, he is good in other ways as well. So he can heal a unit for D3 wounds each turn.
Or bring a model back if they're on full health.
Well, he can only do that with a Stratagem now. So now it's a 1-point Stratagem to bring a model back. So you can't take 4 Apothecaries and they all bring a model back. So it's a 1-point strat to bring a model back. But that goes on to the next unit, which we've got one of here. Michael's got the Invader ATV.
I don't care what other people say. I love the look of this.
I'm not a fan, but I can see some people liking it.
And so because it's blue, if it was painted red,
well, everything's better in red. It'd go faster as well. So this thing is really powerful. It's 80 points. Comes with a multi-melter. That's one of the weapon changes. Multi-melters now.
I'm going for the DACA version. I don't care what the rules say.
But one of the big things about it is this. I mean, it looks like a vehicle, doesn't it? It's about the size of one of those New York buggies. They're all vehicles. It's got 2 Space Marines, 1 Stratagem. In the rules, it's a bike. It's not a vehicle.
Is it a bike? Is it fast attack?
It is fast attack, and that opens it up to a few little rule shenanigans, mainly involving the Apothecary. So, as a bike, it gets 6 up, feel no pain on all of its 8 wounds. This thing has 8 wounds, but more importantly, it can be healed by the Apothecary, so it can have D3 wounds back. But for 1 CP, you get one of these bad boys back on the table when it's destroyed.
Because you can put them in units of up to 3.
In units of up to 3, so it's a unit that's lost the model.
The footprint of them is quite big though, isn't it?
Yeah, but you keep your Apothecary near these and you just pop one back up with 1 CP, and if you've upgraded your Apothecary to the Master Apothecary, that stratagem doesn't cost you anything, so you get a 3-1 of these back a turn as long as you've had 1 die. So, really powerful. I wouldn't be shocked if they errated this to be a vehicle, because there are a few other little situations that it doesn't quite work as a bike, because it's so vehicle-like. It even explodes like vehicles do. All of its rules read like a vehicle, but it's not a vehicle. What other units of import?
This has a stat line of land speeder with a couple more wounds.
Yeah, it's got more wounds than a land speeder.
It's got the stat line of a land speeder.
Other units to note and changes. So aggressors have been a really powerful unit. I've just finished building and painting my own specially converted ones. So they've been whacked with the nerf bat.
Have they?
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
People
aggressors no longer fire twice. They no longer ignore move and shoot penalties. So
everybody ignores move and shoot penalties.
No, infantry don't. So they used to ignore the move and shoot penalties for advancing and firing assault weapons. They no longer do.
Not being a vehicle means this Invader ATV does not get to move and shoot.
No, because it's not an infantry. Only infantry get the -1 to hit with heavy weapons. It's a bike, so it's not infantry, so it wouldn't get the -1.
Oh, right.
So it's pretty handy. Eliminators, aggressors got a lot worse. Eliminators can no longer, they're the Primaris snipers.
With the magic bullet.
Magic bullet can no longer ignore line of sight. They remove that ability from it. Makes a lot more sense. Makes it a lot more fun as well for the enemy.
What does it do instead of that then?
It just does what it used to do. It can target characters. It gets +2 to hit. So it's a really accurate bullet, and it ignores cover. So you get no benefit.
But you need line of sight.
But you need line of sight.
You said it does what it used to do. It used to ignore cover.
Well, yeah, it doesn't.
That was definitely
doesn't ignore line of sight anymore.
Magic bullet, mate.
Thunderfire cannons have unfortunately been hit by the
they were
patented,
just stupid, Michael.
The patented GW double nerf. So in the when 9th edition came out and they released the chapter approved, they more or less doubled the points on it, making it semi-usable.
Everybody had one. You got a free Tech Marine character with it, which was also
making it semi-usable. They've now hit it again. there's no longer a stratagem to double fire it, so that's a bit of a nerf. It's now only strength 4 and it's lost all of its AP, so it's now AP 0. So it's now basically...
And there's no shoot twice stratagem anymore.
Yeah, it's now a ignore line of sight bolt gun that fires 4d3 shots for 160 points.
Mate. So all those people that bought 1 million of them last time. Still comes with a free character model though.
And it still ignores line of sight, so it still does have its use, and it still has a stratagem that can slow targets down. So it's still usable, it's just not very good. The Hunter and Stalker, the anti-air tanks that you've never seen used anywhere ever.
Yeah, they're very expensive as well, aren't they?
They're quite expensive. They're now really good at shooting planes. The one thing they should be good at, they're now really good at. Are they like +2 to hit or something? So they're the, what's it called, the Stalker fires doubles its shots when it fires at aircraft, and the Hunter does d6 plus 6 damage with its weapon against aircraft instead of d6 versus non-aircraft. So pretty powerful weapons for shooting down flyers, especially the Hunter. So they're usable now. Then the Vindicator shield, the big scoop at the front.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Everyone hasn't done anything for an edition or two.
Vindicator, yeah.
It now, if you have one, gives you +1 to your armor save. Pretty useful.
Vindicator shield, add 1 to armor save main, yeah.
Yeah, so Vindicators get a bit tougher.
Siege shield.
Yeah.
And it's toughness 8 with 11 wounds. And toughness 8 is a big deal.
Yeah, toughness 8 2-up save, that's tough. Especially as it's got smoke launchers, you can give it
the Demolisher Cannon was already the best one these days.
Yeah, Demolisher Cannon's really strong, so Vindicators are good. A few new units to talk about. The Eradicators are the melter gun toting big Primaris boys.
Yeah, yeah.
They're probably a bit too good. They're the ones that get to double shoot their melter guns. They only cost 40 points. They're big, they're tough.
And you can take them in squads of up to 6. 6,
yes. They will kill any vehicle they even so much as sniff.
Heavy melter, 24-inch range.
D6 plus 2 or plus 4 damage.
Yeah, D6 plus 2 is the default.
And they can also take a multi-melter now in 1 out of 3 models, and that still gets the double fire, so you get 4 shots, 4 multi-melter shots out of 1 dude. So they're
and they're in Gravis armor, so they don't die easy.
Yeah, toughness 5, 3 wounds. Yeah. I think when the next chapter 2 comes out, you could see them go up 50% in cost, and they'd still be usable. So that's a thing. You've got heavy intercessors are a new unit. Uncertain.
I've not looked at a model yet. The
models are okay.
Are they like the Blade Guard ones?
Oh no, they're bigger. They're the Gravis armor dudes.
Right.
Are
the Blade Guard dudes in Gravis armor?
No, they're not.
They're
They've
in
got
partial
3 wounds,
Gravis armor,
but they're just tougher. But the heavy intercessors, I think you'll see people take them. They're a tough objective secure unit, but they generally don't kill as much as the equivalent points of intercessors. But they're a bit tougher, so that's fine. I think they're pretty good. Then you've got the new speeders and the new tanks, which there's 3 versions of each. And all of them...
But also the old ones, though. I'm seeing separate entries here for land speeders. Land speeder Typhoons and land speeder Tornadoes.
The basic land speeder is slightly different because it helps whirlwinds hit better. Okay.
Data link telemetry.
Yeah, that's baked in now. Used to be a stratagem. Yeah. But you've got the 3 new speeders and the 3 new tanks, which are basically the bigger land speeders and the floating predators. And all of them are okay. They all put out god-awful tons of firepower. But they all suffer from the Primaris problem, which is they've got 15 guns on each model.
Of different types?
Of different types, so it takes forever to fire one. But also, you have to pay points for all those guns. They're all baked into its cost, so they all cost a fortune.
And it's still got... So this Gladiator has got 12 wounds at toughness. But it's toughness 8.
Toughness 8, slightly better, but that's 11 power. So
but toughness 8, 12, that's a Lehman Russ.
Yeah, and that's 220 points around.
Yeah.
And that is going to die as soon as look at it. Whereas a Predator is about 160 points.
Can have a 5-up invul now if you've got a wizard.
If you've got a wizard, and I think...
And you're going to have a wizard.
I think you're going to have one if you're taking multiple of these tanks.
Yeah. I've not seen one built up yet. Are they a reasonable size?
They're a bit bigger Rhino.
Yeah, they're not like Repulsor size.
Yeah, they're not Repulsor. They are a
stick this thing down a bit of scenery.
Chunkier Rhino. They've all got loads of firepower. They'll all kill whatever their particular target is, and there's each one, including the speeders and the tanks, have 3 different versions. One's anti-infantry, one's anti-tank, and one's long range.
And they've got the smoke grenades.
They don't have smoke.
Gladiator Lancer has the smoke screen keyword.
Oh, does it?
Auto launchers. Smokescreen keywords.
Oh, you can give it auto launchers. Okay. I didn't see it there. So there'll be an option. You can either give it auto launchers or an Icarus rocket pod or something like that. I imagine, yeah. So it can get the smokescreen kit.
At those number of points, I'd spend a CP to make it minus 1 to hit.
Definitely.
And I'd give up some frag grenades for it.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's most of the units of import. I don't think there's any others that really need speaking about. Terminators, as we said earlier, they're really good now, I think. Their teleport Homer thing is slightly better. They can once per game redeploy anywhere on the battlefield instead of to the teleport Homer.
Oh.
They can go...
So they like carry it around with them, it doesn't matter? You don't have to put it on the table anymore.
Marker. I think they can... Once per game, you can teleport to anywhere in your own deployment zone or anywhere within 3 inches of any of your other models that isn't within 9 inches of an enemy unit.
Right. So you don't have to put the teleport Homer on the board, and it's
all of your Terminator units a load more mobility and options.
Yeah,
seems really strong.
Which they need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's hope the Death Guard get it.
And I think that is all of the. I mean, obviously every data sheet's got something interesting if you're interested in it, but that is more or less all the data sheets that I think have had major changes or major issues with them.
Absolutely, and we have been talking for quite a long time.
We have.
In terms of the big things, was there anything that stood out from you in terms of, I don't know, like the Thunderhawk or the Land Raider? Do they feel more usable?
I mean, the Land Raider I think is slightly more usable because it heavily benefits from the fire in close combat, depending on just the 9th edition change. Like if you take the Hurricane Bolter or the Flamer one, the Flamer one now has better range on its flamers.
Yeah.
They're better because they can now fire in combat, which is one of the issues.
You can't fire flamers in combat, can you?
You can still fire flamers, you can't fire blast weapons, which flamers aren't. So the flame tank actually, because the Land Raider used to drive at the enemy, get touched by an enemy and be useless. Now it drives at the enemy, disgorges a load of Terminators, and then you can charge in combat and still fire your flamers away and do whatever you fancy. The smoke screen, I think, is a big improvement for a Land Raider.
Yeah.
So now you can pop smoke on your Land Raider.
No, because it's a reaction now, isn't it?
It is. So
you don't need to have had your turn.
Yeah. You pop your smoke. So if you're taking one big Land Raider, you can make it more survivable. So I think the smoke is a big improvement for the Land Raiders. So I think they're usable. The Primaris Repulsors, they've got worse. The big Primaris tank.
The one with too many guns.
The one with too many guns and the giant laser gun. It used to be able to fire the giant laser gun twice.
Yes.
Can't anymore. Now it's +1 to hit instead. Useful, but not as good. So those models, not so clever. But overall, I think the Codex is slightly less powerful than the previous version.
Which I think most people would say, if we're being serious, it needed toning down a little bit.
Yeah. But it gives you so many options, which is why you play Marines, why I play Marines. I could play 20 games and not use the same models in 2 games. It's there's so many options in every slot. Any type of build you want to do, you could play any style of army. You want to be fast, you want to be slow, you want to be defensive, you want to be attacking. All can be made with the Space Marine Codex, which is kind of what it's there for.
And if you play Blood Angels, Death Watch, you can play with this book.
Yeah, very much.
You know, we're going to get better when we get our own book.
Yep.
Or worse, sometimes happens.
Sometimes does.
But we're in the queue, the same queue as everybody else.
Yeah, and all of those books, like the Blood Angels, the Death Watch, the Space Wolves, will all be out before the end of this year. They've said that.
They've said that, right.
Those and the Death Guard are all out this year. And the Dark Angels are out at the start of next year.
So what are we going to do with this? I think we need to... Well, are we going to do Space Wolves versus Blood Angels with this?
So we could, because we each have our special PDF they've given us, so we could easily do a Space Wolves versus Blood Angels.
And then we can do it again when we get the codexes. That
might be an interesting choice.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
And the reason we're doing it with Michael is Michael actually is a bit more of a competitive mindset player.
I like rules.
Understands the mission rules and so forth. Whereas me and Johnny B, we like to roll dice and scream when we get a 6. So I think we'll have a look into that. We'll see if we can get a... Because it's a bit of a grudge match, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done it many times.
We've done it many times.
Usually a good game as well.
We both want to fight, though. That's run in the middle and punch each other. But Thunderwolf Cavalry, who knows?
Oh, yeah, they are tough now.
Are they that good?
Oh, yeah, you go and download the PDF when you finish.
I'm going to do that. All right, guys.
Strong.
I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.
Take care, all.